If you're struggling with your opponent's drives or specifically against bangers, in this video, I'm going to talk about one simple change that you can make to get incredible power on your counters. You see, when it comes to bangers, one of the biggest things that you need to be able to do to defeat them is to hit solid, deep counters back. So that's exactly what we're going to talk about. I coach a lot of different players at every single skill level. One of the things that players struggle with is getting power on their volleys, especially when it's to their higher backhand or even a backhand that's a little bit lower around that navel height, but it's stretched out here. Now, for volleys that are hit directly at my body, in my game today, I use a one-handed punch volley or push volley. These are very, very effective because I'm going to be pushing from my shoulder and I am protecting my chest and my navel, my waist, and I can be in a very strong position using my shoulder. But when I need to volley the ball outside my left shoulder or my left hip, I'm going to have to extend my hand out towards my left, across my body, and then I have to push with my shoulder. So one of the things that you can do and you can add to your game is just simply adding your non-dominant hand on the paddle. Now, we're seeing this a lot in today's pro game by men's and women's, and this allows you to gain extra power, control, and stability just by adding your offhand. First things first, let's talk about the grip. Like I just told you, I do like to defend my body with that one-handed punch volley, so I am in that continental grip already. So what I'm gonna do for the two-handed backhand is I'm simply going to add as many fingers as I can on top, and some pros, they actually have a finger on top like this for added stability, but I actually like to do it like this. So I have two fingers on top of my right hand and holding it just like this. Obviously, this video is specifically talking about how to add massive power with your two-handed counterattacks. But we just created a completely free video series on all the other two-handed backhand shots that you can utilize and add to your game. Drives, dinks, speed ups, drops. Again, as this game is evolving, the two-hander is becoming more and more important. If you want to check that out, click in the link in the description below. So now that I have the grip down, let's talk about certain scenarios when I would use this. Again, we talked about anytime that ball is kind of outside my left hip or left shoulder, I'm going to have extra leverage and extra power just by adding that left hand. So here I am on the left side of the court. Obviously, a speed up or a drive that players would go for on this side is down my line. So instead of me hitting a one-handed backhand like this in kind of a weak position and stretched out position, what I can do is I can simply turn my shoulders and then get set up here so that I could really put a lot of force and use that left hand for that stability and power. Another very common scenario is when you're playing the right side as a right-handed player, especially when the ball is cross court from you, whether it's being dinked from the corner over there, or maybe it's being driven from the back corner cross court. In this scenario, I'm obviously going to be squeezing the middle a little bit, but I can actually sit in this two-handed backhand grip and actually be ready to counter very strongly, as I expect a lot of balls to come through the middle here. So again, if the ball is cross court from me, I'm on the right side, I could just sit in my two-handed backhand position and I can be ready here, or if it comes straight towards my body, I can let go and then I can be here ready for the one-handed punch volley. Okay, now that we know why this shot can be very useful and when we would use it, now let's talk about the how. How can we hit this efficiently and get more power? Well, we already talked about the grip. The biggest key thing here is going to be that shoulder turn, okay? This is what actually sets us up in this powerful position. You will notice as I turn my shoulders, my hips are actually turning as well. A lot of times we don't have time to move our foot out the way, so all we need to do is just turn our shoulders. Now, what I'm not doing, I'm gonna show you in this camera here, I'm not just taking my paddle back like this. This is a common mistake that I see. If I actually keep my paddle in front of me in this neutral ready position, and I just turn my shoulders and hips, you'll see my paddle naturally go back with me. This is a very strong, powerful position to be in, and from here, I could then just swing through the ball. Now let's talk about how far back you actually want to take your backswing. If you watch like an Annalie Waters or some other really good players that have incredible two-handed backhands, they actually take it back fairly far. So what I would encourage you or tell you to do in the very beginning is I would tell you to take it back a little bit past your shoulders just for that added power. Now, the more you can read their shots and the faster you can anticipate, you can take a much bigger swing and have a bigger counter. But remember, the further you take that paddle back, the more time it takes. So you need to be able to make sure you're anticipating that ball early. Now that we know the key to gaining power is actually turning those shoulders and hips, we're gonna talk about the follow through and the swing. All right, so from here, let's say it's a ball right around this high. I want to be able to swing through the ball. And as I'm swinging, right, my shoulders and my hips are turning back towards my target, and my follow through is generally going to finish up above my right shoulder as a right-handed player. So whether I'm taking maybe a lower counter here and I'm hitting it like that, or if I'm taking kind of a head high counter, I'm still going to finish towards my right shoulder. Now, one of the big key things that a lot of players get confused is where they start their actual paddle. Now, if the ball is a little bit lower, I obviously have to start that paddle either a little bit below the ball or at the ball level. And this is really important because if I'm trying to get topspin or if I'm just trying to power through the ball, I need to make sure that I'm at least at that level of the ball. When the ball is up here and it's head high, these are the tougher ones for players, especially, you know, with a one-handed backhand. This is why we want to add those two hands. But when it is this high, we want to make sure that we are actually starting a little bit higher. Okay, I see a lot of players with this ball coming in here and they're starting low and they're trying to hit it up here and they're mishitting the ball or missing it completely. Okay, so for higher balls, again, start a little bit below the height of that contact, or you can kind of just start at the height of that ball and then swing through right towards your right shoulder. Now, the last thing that doesn't get talked about, which all really good players do, is returning back into that ready position. Because we're hitting such a strong and powerful counter, that ball potentially could come back to us a little bit faster. So even though we are taking a little bit of a bigger swing compared to our one-handed punch volley, we have to make sure that we get right back into that ready position. And this is what every really good player does when they're up at the non-volley zone. All right, so now that we talked about why it's a good idea to have this shot, when you should hit it, and exactly how to do it, we're gonna jump into a really practical exercise that you can do with a friend. I have Logan here, and what he's gonna do, he has a basket right there. He's going to feed me balls towards my left. Remember, we talked about outside the left shoulder, outside my left hip as a right-hander. And again, he's not gonna start with very fast feeds. It's actually slow to medium feeds because I need to get used to turning that shoulders, that torso. Remember, it turns those hips, and then I'm just going to be swinging across. Nice and easy. Again, staying relaxed is really key. I'm not muscling through the shot. You're gonna see me in the very beginning just turn and swing, nice and loose. And you'll actually be really surprised of how much power you can get just from that. Okay, so here we go, Logan. Okay. Okay. So the really important thing here to focus on, again, is turning those shoulders, getting that paddle back. And again, I just have it slightly past my hips here. And then I'm just going to be, again, turning back towards the net. And I'm going to be swinging towards my right shoulder. Here we go again. Okay. And then two more, Logan. Okay. So remember, this is something that you're going to have to practice. And again, if you haven't done this before, you just need the reps and just get the good feel. Okay. But again, this is something that you can definitely start to implement in your game. So go out there now and practice it with a partner. If you really enjoyed this video, make sure that you give it a like. And remember, we created a free video series on all the other shots that you can use your two-handed backhand, drives, drops, speed ups. So make sure you check that out. It's completely free. Go to the description below and check it out.